Councillors Baldwin, Riel, we're getting ready to go. Good. Councillor Burke, we're ready to roll. We will bring this meeting for Peterborough City Council to order for April 28th, 2025. Our first item of business will be, our second item of business will be our land acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that we're on the treaty and the traditional territory of the Mississauga Anishinaabe. We offer our gratitude to the First Peoples for their care for and teachings about our earth, our relations. May we honor those teachings. The next item of business is 30 seconds of silent reflection. I now ask those that are able if we could stand for the singing of the national anthem. The Council of the City of Peterborough recognizes the principles contained in our Constitution and the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. The members of Council have any declaration of pecuniary interest at this time? Councillor Hickey, please.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Yes, I wish to declare on closed session report on Ontario Land Tribunal 9A report IPGLPL 25-020 as one of the principals of the company is a client of the firm I work for.
Thank you, Councillor Hickey. Any other members at this particular time? Thank you, Councillor Hickey. Before we go to delegations, I have a couple updates that I want to share with Council this evening. I want to say a few words about the terrible attack we saw yesterday in Vancouver at the Lapu Lapu Festival. This morning, I sent a letter of support to Ken Sim, the Mayor of Vancouver, on behalf of the citizens of Peterborough, expressing our grief and solidarity with the families and friends of the victims of this horrific attack and against Canada's Filipino community. I've been privileged to have a long relationship with the active and vibrant Filipino community we have right here in the city of Peterborough. I recently had the honor of attending a tournament organized by the Filipino Basketball League of the city of Peterborough. On behalf of my colleagues, I want to express my deepest thoughts and prayers with Peterborough's Filipino community and all who are grieving during this most difficult time. And next, colleagues, I would never say I'm a great fashion person, but with me this evening, I have a pair of Mort socks. Last week, I bought a pair of Mort socks. They are $20. This is a non-for-profit venture started by Craig Mortlock and the team at Mortlock Construction. Mort socks are Peterborough-themed dress socks that they give back. For every pair of Mort socks sold, Mortlock Construction will donate 6 pairs to those most in need, distributed by the Brock Mission and the Peterborough Community Health Center. You could buy a pair of Mort socks online or at the Vine Restaurant at 165 Sherbrooke Street. I encourage all of my council colleagues and the people of Peterborough to pick up a pair of Mort socks. And lastly, colleagues, next Monday, May the 5th, is the National Day of Awareness for Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women, Girls, Two-Spirit People, also known as Red Dress Day. This, colleagues, is a solemn day of remembrance, a time to honor those who have been taken and those who are still missing. The red dress has become a powerful symbol, a visual representation of the lives stolen and a reminder of the deep injustice faced by Indigenous communities in Canada today. As a community, we have a role to play. We can raise awareness, stand in solidarity, and show our support to families, friends, and entire communities affected. That is why on May 5th, the City of Peterborough will hang red dresses in the windows of City Hall and public facilities throughout the city. These dresses are a symbol of remembrance and the call for justice. I invite all residents of our city to take part. Please consider hanging a red dress in your window, on a porch, or in a visible outdoor space. On Monday, May 5th at 10 a.m., we will also hold a commemorative ceremony to mark the day. All are welcome to attend. These gestures, though simple, carry powerful meaning. They honor the spirits of the mothers, daughters, grandmothers, aunties, and sisters who never made it home. Next Monday, let us stand together in remembrance, in solidarity, and in commitment to change. The next item of business, Mr. Clerk, is registered delegations. And our first delegations is Jim Austin on item 9C, Council Compensation Review, report FCSFS 25-008. Mr. Austin, please. And Mr. Austin, if we could have your name and address for the public record. You'll have 5 minutes to make a presentation, and we'll let you know at end of 4 to get to the windup. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to ask for a quick sound check. I'm wearing hearing aids, so I'm not,
Oh, I'm sorry.
and I'm not entirely sure how well I'm speaking to you or how I'm going to be hearing you guys. Everything
great.
okay so far?
You're great.
Okay. My name is Jim Austin, and I'm a resident of Monaghan Ward. Mr. Mayor, councillors, ladies and gentlemen. Last week, I became aware that tonight City Council will vote on a new financial compensation package for councillors and the mayor that addresses compensation inequities between Peterborough and several other comparator municipalities. It is my understanding that the city wishes to implement increases of 50% and 60% for councillors and the mayor respectively, and that said raises should take effect at the beginning of the new term of the new city council in 2026. Am I correct in my understanding? Nobody saying no? Okay. If I am indeed correct, I feel compelled to voice my strong opposition to the proposal as it currently stands. First, it strikes me as a huge conflict of interest that councillors can vote and implement a new compensation package for themselves if they choose to run again and are successful in that re-election. To be clear, and to be conflict-free, the only councillors who should be voting on this proposal are those who can commit right here and right now that they have no intention of running for city council again. Otherwise, you can all stand accused of feathering your own nests at the expense of city taxpayers. The city has a very large senior citizen population, and they rely on fixed income pensions to meet their daily needs. At best, the only raises they see in their income come from cost of living adjustments. And this is a far cry from 50 and 60%. Some people do not have fixed income pensions, as their pensions are what is called a derived pension, in that the pension is tied to their previous company's financial performance and how the markets are performing. And as we can all see, the markets have lost billions since the election of the American president. I would like to ask city staff, if the pay increases being proposed were implemented into our current budget, what percentage increase would that constitute in the overall city budget? Oh, okay, well. Okay. I'd also like to know what the costing of the increase is in dollars for the first year of the proposed increase. The compensation inequities that have been identified have taken years to accrue, but that does not appear to have deterred people from seeking office. I would therefore like to suggest that an alternative plan be implemented to address the compensation inequities and make the increases more measured and even perhaps sellable to the population at large. My proposal is this: new, not previously elected members to City Council receive the new compensation package as proposed. Re-elected members of council receive their current compensation, but with a 12.5% increase in each year of the term of the council. Should we elect a new mayor, then that person would receive the new compensation package as currently proposed. But if the current mayor runs for re-election and is successful, that the compensation paid be at the current rate plus an additional 15% in each year of the term of the council. My proposal meets the goals of having appropriate and current compensation for council members and the mayor at the end of the upcoming term. Furthermore, it saves some money during the Furthermore, it saves some money during the implementation phase that could be used for other projects, such as modifying our snow plows to ensure that residents no longer find Titanic-sized icebergs in their driveways after the plows go by. Matt, you knew I was going to say that. Yeah, no problem. If you want to see an example of this, just check out the West End Peterborough page on Facebook. City Council upon election is charged with the fiduciary responsibility to act in the best interests of the people who elected them. The compensation package as proposed by the city does not meet this test. If you go ahead with your proposal to increase council compensation.
Mr. Austin, you're down to 29 seconds.
Oh, boy. Okay. Okay. There's I believe, a children's librarian on the table for a potential cutback due to the city budget. I would say that that person is needed more than the raises that are being proposed tonight. And so I will just leave you with the idea. And also I will just leave you with the idea that I don't think the pay increases are fair. And just because you can, it doesn't mean you should.
Thank you, Mr. Austin. There may be some questions. Councillor Lucico, please.
Thank you. And I really appreciate you coming. And this is something that there should be discourse about, because it is quite a change. So that's been presented in this report. So thank you for coming and expressing these things. And you know, it was a longer meeting, and I just have a couple questions for you.
Sure.
Because certainly before I could vote last week, I did a great deal of research from previous terms and just the approach and the process towards any reform to council governance, and specifically any salary increases. So I'm just curious if you've done that. Are you aware of how many years and or decades?
So we'll go through the chair with the question.
Through you,
Thanks.
Your Worship. Are you aware of how long it's been that it's been considered a part-time job that is deserving of the compensation, the councillor compensation?
Mr. Austin, please.
I think if you probably looked up in the Book of Moses, you get your answer. It's there, and I think it's way overdue. But I think the way it's being approached in terms of a potential correction right now also needs to be looked at again.
Thank you. And if I may, Your Worship, just
Please
a couple of supplemental questions. So I guess my question is, are you aware, and I know that you acknowledged this councillor as being your ward councillor, how many hours councillors are now working, especially because there's been a whole reconfiguration of our daytime work. We are actually working in the daytime quite frequently, and in meetings with new portfolios, new files. very different than previous terms. Are you aware of that?
I'm not aware of the total number of or average hours or aggregate hours, but I am aware that you guys when you men and women put in a lot more time than you're getting compensated for, which is why I'm not addressing the overall increase. What I am addressing is the way it's being approached.
Thank you, and I hear you.
Yeah.
So given the fact that we are working full-time hours, as counselors that are working full-time hours,
Yeah.
daytime and evening,
And weekends.
and if one would do the math,
Yeah.
the math says that it's actually less than minimum wage.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
so I think that
I think we have a question from Councillor
yes,
Singh,
yes,
and
and
then Mr. Austin, you could give.
are you aware of that?
Okay, could you rephrase your question?
That when one does the math, we're looking at something that is at or slightly under minimum wage.
Quite
Mr.
possible.
Austin?
Quite
Okay.
possible.
So, and also I think if what do you see when you look around the council horseshoe in terms of those who are participating in terms of age and gender? Do you think that might impact the participation of those who would run for council? A living wage, would a living wage be important for younger people and for those who may be just underrepresented, put it that
Mr.
way?
Austin, your response?
Okay, in my 16 years at the Children's Aid, I only spent maybe 5 years where my wage would have been in excess of what the top range is of the proposal.
Right.
So I would say it would in some cases, and in other cases, it would not.
Well, thank you for your understanding of what a living wage is. And I think that sometimes there's catch up that needs to be done. And for a 4-year term, for those people who may see a future around the table,
Yep.
I think that that's important. And it's not for this particular council. And I don't know that any of us have decided firmly whether we're going to be campaigning again, but this is for the future, a future prepared Peterborough. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Are there any further questions for Mr. Austin? Mr. Austin? No. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay. Good
I
luck
just
with the rest of
remind
the
our
meeting.
audience, instead of clapping, if we could just go with this as we are in support of what the speaker may be saying. Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Thank you.
The next delegation is Alan Denton. Options regarding eliminating building heights and angular plane requirements report IPG PL 25-018. Mr. Denton, please.
Hello, I'm Alan Deaton. I'm sorry.
Welcome, sir. Welcome.
I'm sorry. This
Welcome.
is about option to eliminate building heights.
Yes, the floor is yours, sir. Please proceed.
Press what? What do you want me to do?
Just start to talk.
I can start to speak now?
Yes, that's
Okay,
correct, sir.
thank you.
And you have 5 minutes.
That's great.
Perfect.
That's all I'll need. I don't have any public speaking skills, but I can speak from the heart, and I can tell you, please do not do any building of high rises around the waterfront near the art gallery. You know, there are some very nice heritage homes on Crescent Street. Do not knock them down. You're simply going to be dispossessing people, throwing them into the realm of the homeless. Furthermore, you're going to be creating incredible chaos around there. There's going to be dirt, pollution, noise, traffic jams. You know, if it ain't broke, don't try to fix it. Someone once said, well, you know, if you want to make an omelet, you have to break a few eggs. We're not really interested in the omelet. We like our eggs. We don't believe in the world of Donald Trump. You know, he was a real estate developer. He believes, you know, bigger and better. Well, this is Canada. I come from Toronto initially. They have 2 seasons there, winter and construction. Is that what you want in this town? I don't want that. I came from Toronto to have peace and quiet, and so I don't hear construction sounds. It's 7 o'clock in the morning. Okay, so that's basically what I'm saying. Please just leave well enough alone. Do not build any high rises. Do not change the bylaws to allow construction of 6-story buildings or 10-story buildings, because there's no one in that area that wants that. You know, it's just wonderful. You know, all the way. You know, from the beautiful cemetery and all the way down Crescent Street, to the art gallery and to the Del Curry Park. Why do you want to screw that up? Why can't you leave well enough alone? This is some city planner's idea of progress. Well, it really isn't progress. I think it's a perversion of the idea of progress. It just, people just can't leave well enough alone. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I know, I can tell you this, if you start building there, you will lose a lot of votes from people in that neighborhood because they don't want it. They're happy, are happy enough. They don't want some 10-story monstrosity there. And so I am concerned about people being dispossessed from their homes on Crescent Street. Have a look at some of those homes. Maybe some of them need renovation, but that's all they need. They're very lovely heritage type homes. Why do you want to tear them down? Anyways, that's really all I say. I'm begging you, I'm imploring you, please do not allow construction of high-rise apartments on Crescent Street between Lake Street and Romaine Street. Just leave it alone. It's not like this is some horrible tenement slum that's desperately in need of urban renewal. It's not like there are a lot of fire traps there, and they're the famous. Anyway, it's not like you got 6 people living per room in a tenement slum. It's not like that. It's a nice area. It doesn't need urban renewal. So what's the problem? Just let it be. Do not build any high-rise apartments between Romaine and Lake Street on Crescent Street coming up to George Street. Can the idea. Do not allow it. Do not change the bylaws to allow it. Leave well enough alone. Please. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Deaton. Deaton, can I get your address for the public record, please? 169 Lake Street.
1009. I'm one of the old geezers who lives there. I'm sorry, I'm not rich and I'm handicapped and I don't have any money. But we like it there, and I'm sorry, I'm not a great real estate developer or anything like that. And I don't, but just let it be. Is that the old Beatles song, Let It Be?
Thank you, sir, for being with us. There could be some questions. Don't run away yet.
Oh, okay.
Any questions for
I'm
Mr.
sorry,
Deaton?
I'm deaf, and
Yep.
of course I didn't bring my hearing aids today.
Yeah. There may be
It's
some
one of
questions.
the reasons why I speak so loudly.
I don't mean to be speaking loudly, but there may be some questions for you, sir. Any questions for Mr. Deaton? Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much for your
Thank you.
presentation.
Thank you very much for your time.
The next, we have delegations on the notice of motion. Marcia Steves, please, the President of Peterborough District Labor Council. Marcia, if we could have your name and address for the public record. And I want to thank you for your leadership role this morning and the day of mourning. We
Thank you.
truly appreciate that.
Thank you. Marcia Steves from Monaghan Ward. Good evening, Mayor Leal and members of council. My name is Marcia Steves, and I am proud to speak to you today as the president of Peterborough and District Labor Council. And I am here to express our strong support for CUPE 1833, library workers of the Peterborough Public Library, and to urge council to reconsider the proposed operational changes. To be fully transparent, I am also president of OPSU CEFBO Local 351 support staff at Fleming College, and I am also a library technician, so I kind of know what I'm talking about. I'm also a mother of 2 wonderful teenagers that continue to grow into amazing humans, greatly due to the early literacy events and services and activities held at the Peterborough Library. The Peterborough Public Library is more than a building with books. It is a cornerstone of our community. It supports literacy, education, inclusion, community engagement for citizens of all ages and backgrounds. Its staff are the heart of that work. Their expertise, dedication, and service to our residents are irreplaceable. What we know today is that the library is facing a significant reduction. 3 senior experienced staff members are being laid off. Services to the public are being reduced. Remaining staff will face increased workloads under redistributed roles. And while it's been reported that 2 new positions are proposed, one will be at a lower classification, which effectively devalues the professional work in it that is essential to the library's success. Second position will require a Master of Library Science, but completely remove personal contact with the community. All of this is happening while the library's contingency fund, which could temporarily maintain these critical roles while planning begins, remains available. Alarmingly, this same fund has been used to provide a substantial retroactive pay increase to the library director. This decision sends a message to the community that the leadership is prioritized over the frontline services to our public. I ask you, how can investing in administrative salaries while simultaneously cutting the very services that make the library a vital public institution actually be justified? The Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives wrote an article in January of this year, specifically about the need for continued community investment in public library services. It noted that far too often public funding decisions are being made based on inaccurate beliefs that libraries simply check out books. If it was just about books, it would be chapters, not a library. Undervaluing services and outreach that libraries have in our communities and overlooking their substantial economic impact. Yes, even a free public library and library services have a distinct role in the economic growth of our communities. The CCPA article goes on to point out that the economic impact of public libraries is far greater than that which is achieved through the public funding of sport facilities or venues. Council has long recognized the importance of good public service, of fairness to workers, of protecting the public good, and we are urging you to continue this leadership now. This morning, we actually stood together acknowledging today as the National Day of Mourning, acknowledging the need to address visible and invisible hazards in the workplace. Job cuts and service changes that devalue one's lifelong work and dedication cause harm. It hurts those that are directly impacted. Workload changes for those that remain increase the stress in the workplace. And if change is not properly managed, harm will continue to impact staff. We respectfully ask Council to support a full and transparent review of these operational changes, encourage the Library Board to prioritize the use of available funds to preserve jobs and services, and reaffirm your commitment as a council to a strong, publicly funded, and properly staffed public library that puts service to our community at the forefront. The citizens of Peterborough deserve no less than this. I would like to leave you with one final note. Library work is much more than checking out books. It is rooted front and center in our community growth, supporting young families, the elderly, new Canadians, the unhoused, and the unemployed. Libraries open doors and raise families out of poverty and despair, but none of this happens without qualified librarians and trained staff. Removing integral staff and services strip the library of its heart and purpose and will have a negative impact on our citizens and our community. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thanks, Marcia, for your presentation. There may be questions for you. Questions for Marcia, please. Councillor Lucica.
Thank you, through you, Your Worship. I just also like to say thank you for your meaningful presentation this morning at Day of Mourning. Nothing that's more important than remembering families and folks impacted by that. I didn't realize that you were a library worker yourself. Could you speak for a moment to the role of equity and how libraries provide that for our communities?
Libraries have historically provided that open space that has free, right? There is no barriers. When we talk about other services and things that we support in the community, there's a ticket cost, right? Not everybody can actually afford a ticket to a Pete's game, but everybody has access to the Peterborough Library, right? So that access is something that many people in our community, whether it is elementary students, preschool students, families, they don't necessarily have the access that we provide through the Peterborough Library and libraries in general. The other thing is that we are living in a society right now that we are seeing drastic cuts of our southern neighbors, specifically to libraries, purposefully to inhibit the growth of their communities. We can't see that here, right? We have already seen the reduction of libraries in elementary and secondary schools. As many of you may know, there are issues with the college system right now, and those cuts are also impacting our libraries. Public libraries are our safe haven. They have protected people. They have provided access to information so they could stand up for their own rights and learn how to do that themselves.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Burke, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Leo, and through you to Ms. Steves, thank you for coming. I guess my question is about the position that we're in right now. And, you know, the decision to make these cuts was made at budget time around the table, and the language around what the cuts would mean was quite explicit and detailed about what it was going to look like. And I don't think, I'll speak for myself, but I didn't really hear any feedback at that time compared to the feedback that we've heard at council through these past few weeks. So can you just for us elaborate, you know, what's going on outside of these council chambers that has caused the sort of response that the community is having, as opposed to having that response when we actually made the decision during the budget time?
I can't speak to why Labor Council didn't know maybe the gravity of what those cuts would mean. We had a presentation from CUPE at our last meeting that kind of rose our awareness to understand the impact and the greater impact to the community. I also think that we had trusted in the process, and perhaps the workers trusted in the process, that they would be actively involved in being able to talk through with management on options. My understanding is that they are in active bargaining, and these changes coming now during active bargaining also cause other issues. So I think we trust that we can work these things out equitably and sufficiently, but when it comes down to it, when that can't be done, then the rest of us need to stand up and say something.
Thank you so much. And I guess just also in the same line of questioning, I could be wrong, but it's my understanding that as well as council receiving very explicitly the language around what the cuts would look like, there was two options actually in council. I didn't vote for it, but council endorsed the option that people have been emailing us about lately. Are you aware of that decision also being had at the board level, at the library board? And what would your involvement be? Are you on the board?
No, I have no involvement with the library board, and I am not aware of what the decision-making power would be.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Burke. Any additional questions? Thank you very much for your presentation this evening. Next, we have Patricia Schofield, CUPE Local 1833 Library Workers. Patricia, please. If I could get your name and address for the public record, and you'll have 5 minutes to make a presentation. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor Leo and members of council. My name is Patricia Schofield, and I live in Ashburnham Ward. I am the president of CUPE Local 1833, representing library workers. I'm proud to work at the library as Access Services Technician. I'm here to appeal to you to review the funding cuts of $120,000 for this year, which will result in the proposed layoffs of 3 long-term experienced librarians. Not only are these people going to be laid off, but these positions will be permanently eliminated. It is the union's stance that council wasn't given adequate information about how these cuts would affect services. We believe this will affect services as follows. 2 community development and outreach librarians, which I will refer to as programming librarians, and the access services librarian will be laid off. The library will no longer have librarians specializing in children's and adult programming, or a supervisor of access services who is also our systems administrator. The programming librarians organize our most popular events. For example, the summer reading program last year had over 550 children registered in the Reading Challenge. Last year, the children's programming staff delivered 210 early literacy programs to 4,370 kids and caregivers. This past March break, staff provided exciting and educational programs to a total of 1,522 kids, and I could go on. These statistics show the children's programming librarian plays a critical role in getting children hooked on reading early in life and making the library a safe, engaging, and inviting place to learn. The adult programming librarian offers such programs as One Book, One Peterborough, with more than 100 people participating each year and hundreds more reading the book and participating in related events. The impact of adult programming includes relationships built with and amongst book club participants and attendees of our Living and Aging Well programs, community conversations, and outreach activities. These events will not be possible without the dedication and research of the librarians who specialize in services to these age groups. 2 new positions are proposed to help with the workload from the elimination of these programming librarians. One position will be replaced one person doing mostly administrative duties. The other new job will only be able to deliver half the programs presently delivered by the 2 current staff members. This will result in a reduction of about 250 programs per year. The Access Services Librarian position is being eliminated outright. The tasks are being redistributed to other employees who already have heavy workloads. This position is responsible for ensuring our library catalog functions for the public and staff to use, and supervision of the department that handles all the new books and other materials acquired by the library. With the loss of these roles, we are talking about losing oversight and supervision over the most basic functional aspects of the library. In Ontario, in a city of 50,000 to 100,000 people, the average library employs 7 librarians. We presently have 6 professional librarians, 2 of which are the library CEO and library managers. These layoffs will leave us with only 4 librarians, 3 of which will be in administrative roles only. We are proposing that Council reconsider the decision to eliminate these positions. We request that Council direct Commissioner Laidman to develop a new plan that will restore adequate funding to the library now and throughout 2026. We would be happy to assist in drafting this plan. Thank you for your attention.
Patricia, thank you very much for your presentation. I think there's going to be some questions. Councillor Burke, please. Councillor Burke.
Thank you, Mayor Leo, and through you to Ms. Schofield, thank you for coming and speaking. Appreciate it. You know, I'm definitely not trying to cross-examine you or the other delegate, but I'm just trying to sort of crack open the conversation for us that we're going to have in some respect to what people are coming to speak about. I guess my first question would be, how do you respond to the idea that it's not council, which is something that I've heard, that it's not council's role to sort of micromanage in the operational side of the library?
Well, I think it's council's responsibility to look at what is actually going on and discuss whether there might be a better way that is less impactful to services to save this money.
Very much.
Thank you, Mayor Leo. Patricia, thank you for your attendance. In your remarks, and I may not have heard you correctly, but you said the reduction staff will culminate and result in a loss of 250 programs each year.
Yes, approximately.
Can you elaborate? 200? I find that number quite high, but 250 programs, or is it program hours?
I'm speaking about the fact that there are 2 programming librarians and 2 assistants. So there are 4 people creating and running programs now under the aegis of the programming librarians. So they each are expected to do 1 program per day. Now that may be repeats, but for example, say a book club, you need to prepare for each book club because you're reading a different book. You have to choose a different book. You have to make sure it gets ordered. You have to prepare the questions. So each one is each event is a program. So, with 4 people doing 4 programs a day, with this plan, it's going down to 3 people doing programs. So that's an automatic 25% cut in programming, as I see it, the numbers.
Through you, your worship, yes, Patricia, I thank you for that clarification. I was trying to understand, and perhaps some others around this table were trying to understand what was meant by 250 programs. So thank you for your explanation.
3. And thank you.
Nine F, 9G. So we'll separate out 9A. We'll deal with that one first. Can we get somebody to move 9A? Councillor Duguay, seconder Councillor Purnell. Comments or questions? We'll go to a vote on that. I'll deal with the rest, John. Yeah, the second. Councillor Duguay, Councillor Purnell.
His worship has moved with Councillor Duguay and Councillor Purnell just to move 9A.
Which is the one that was the declaration of pecuniary interest by Councillor Hankey. So we'll deal with that first. That's carried. Someone would like to move B, D, and G. Councillor Purnell, seconder. Councillor Duguay, we'll go to a vote. And that is carried. 9C, Councillor Baldwin. Councillor Baldwin?
Yeah, thanks, thanks, your worship. Just like general committee, your worship, I'm going to move a deferral of this report. And I'd like to speak to it.
Councillor, you have the floor.
So, your worship,
Is there a seconder for the deferral? Seconder for Councillor Hankey. Proceed, Councillor Baldwin. And then I have Councillor Real on the speakers list. Councillor Baldwin, go ahead.
Thank you very much, your worship. As I acknowledged last Monday night or last Tuesday night, your worship, I wanted to thank Commissioner Freeman for his work on bringing forward the report, first of all. I don't know whether other councillors have received telephone calls or emails with respect to the councillor compensation report. I have received some feedback from the community. I must say, your worship, that feedback I've received has not been favorable with respect to the report. We deliberated last November, December, and January, finally got a budget struck in February, and we struggled with passing along a 6.72% increase to the taxpayer. The report asks or suggests that we should be paid in the 75th percentile. And the previous speaker this evening had referenced a 50%, 60% increase. I believe it's 52 and 60, but the gentleman was quite correct. So as I stated a week ago, Your Worship, I'd like to see the report go back to the commissioner to reconsider some of the comparables that were used in the report. The report did reference a 50% percentile, which I think is more in keeping with something that's affordable by the public. We've heard many times, cost to the taxpayer, people on fixed incomes, 25% seniors in the community, et cetera, et cetera. I want to remind my colleagues that this is at present part-time work. We're looking at increasing our remuneration from about $36,000 to almost $55,000 on virtually day one of the next council. The other thing I'd like to say, Your Worship, is that not only does the report reference a 75th percentile and an increase in salary.
Point of order. What is the motion? Yeah, but what is the motion?
It's a motion to defer.
Okay, fine.
Okay.
But there should be clarification. What he's deferring.
Councillor Baldwin, do you want to provide some clarity for Councillor Real, please?
Your Worship, through you, I would like to have this particular report deferred back to the commissioner.
Yes.
And bring it forward at another time for council's consideration.
Okay.
I don't know how long it'll take the commissioner to do that. I was going to ask him at the end of this, but I thought I'd just deal with the points that I'm looking for right now.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Your Worship. So we're looking at a substantial increase in pay for part-time work. We're also looking at a benefit package, which we currently have. We're also looking at a 9% pension match. We're looking at an increase in our subsidy for transportation. The last I looked with the carbon tax, the price of a liter of gasoline has actually gone down. We're asking for it to be increased. And we have a subsidy for internet, which we all need. So as I referenced, some time ago, Your Worship, to me, this is too rich. I don't know anybody in Peterborough, they got a 52% or a 60% increase in pay. In fact, I was talking to some colleagues today who are working 40 hours per week, making somewhere full-time, making somewhere in the $40,000 to $41,000 range. We're looking at something and they don't have any benefits, Your Worship. So I really, on a principle and a good conscience, as I mentioned a week ago, as the report is currently how it's structured, I cannot possibly support this report. And I would really like my colleagues to consider sending it back, deferring it back to our commissioner to bring another report. What I would suggest, perhaps, Your Worship, if it gets to that point, is that the commissioner give us three options: an option A, an option B, and option C. We were given one option, and that option I can't support. That's the reason why I want to defer, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Baldwin. We have some speakers lined up. Councillor Real, you're next. Councillor Chica. Councillor Real, please, on the deferral.
I'll move that the question be put.
When the motion for the question be put, we'll vote on that. It's non-debatable. Councillor Real's moved that the question be put. We'll vote on that. And that is carried. We'll now go for the question to be put. Natalie, we'll have on the deferral. Put that on our screen, please.
It's Councillor Hakey, Baldwin and Hakey.
And the deferral is defeated. We'll now go to the main motion, council compensation. Somebody like to move that? Councillor Duguay, Councillor Purnell, we'll go to a comments or questions. We'll go to a vote. We'll go to a vote. There we go. Yes.
Through the chair to Mr. Nelson. I'll move it, just speaker. Through the chair to Mr. Nelson, could you please give me some clarification on just what staff is bringing back to council in regards to the sidewalk policy? Are you bringing back the sidewalks will just be on one side? Or that there should be sidewalks on both sides, or there should be sidewalks on no sides of the street?
So please.
Through the chair, it will be basically an investigation into all offers or opportunities. Right now, currently, the sidewalk policy states sidewalk on both sides of every street, void of those on cul-de-sacs that have 28 homes or more. Or less without a walkway off the end of them. So this would be looking at all opportunities to adjust that current policy and what the implications of such would be.
Thank you very much. That's clarification I wanted.
Anything further, Councillor Real? Anything further in this one? Comments or questions? We'll go to a vote. That's carried. 9F. Councillor Real. Somebody like to move it and then
I'll move the report.
and a seconder for that? Councillor Duguay? Proceed, sir.
Through the chair to Mr. Appleby, when we did this last week, the options about the building height and the angular plane, it got a little convoluted because can you give me some clarification on option 1 and 2? Because 1 was kind of what the city staff was going for, but if you looked at option 2, it said that you want to speed it up and it changed the whole thing about the building height and the angle. So it's two totally different things. If it would have been 1, you would like to speed up the process of building height and the angles were kept. because it's actually two different things when you read it again. Or that's the way I read it. I read it again and I read it again, and they're two absolutely different things because it isn't just speeding up the process. It's actually changing if there's angular plan and building height. Am I reading that right?
Strappa, please.
Your worship, the intent behind the two different options, the intent behind option one was to acknowledge that city staff are undertaking a process right now through the community planning permit system. We are, undertaking community consultation that speaks to building heights, and we're having that conversation, through that process to try and sort of establish a framework for how you regulate height through a community planning permit, right? And so option one was basically suggesting, instead of advancing an official plan amendment right now to address building heights and angular planes, we could allow that process to play out, because eventually what the community planning permit process will do, it will come with an official plan amendment as well, which could do the very same thing. It could address that. Option two, on the other hand, was more about, if we don't want to wait for that process to play out, which is intended to wrap up around April of next year, then staff could move forward on an official plan amendment sooner, right? And follow that council direction to remove the building height language and the angular plane language from the official plan.
Continue, Councillor Riel.
To the chair, thank you for that clarification, because when I voted, and then I reread it, I voted for actually number two, but when I read it again, I would have voted for number one. That's why I brought it up. Because the speeding, I think there's two different things here. I think that in one, if you would have said speed up the process and do all the things, but number two changes the whole complexity of the angular plane and the building height. So that's just where I'm coming from anyways.
Councillor, anything further, Councillor Riel? No. Councillor Burke, please, and Councillor Chica.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Leal. And, I appreciate Councillor Duguay, who moved the idea for this option. We might not completely see eye to eye on this particular issue, but I think that I've definitely taken to heart his comments and his knowledge and expertise, and I appreciate that conversation. So thank you. My comments are much like what I had to say about it at our meeting last week, which is that I don't support the idea of doing option two, even though we need to sort of emphasize doing things that we can to create the housing that we need. I understand that. But I think that I support the staff recommended option because it includes a process that's in place right now that takes the community engagement that has been done for the official plan, but it also just like because those discussions were now a long time ago, right? And the plan that we have in place for option one, the staff recommended option, is already underway. Each councillor is going to go meet with the consultants to give our feedback. There's been many opportunities for public feedback and more to come on this issue, which is a polarizing issue. And I think that we need to sort of marry in the middle, where we take into account the need for the housing and the need for densification, but we also take into account putting some safeguards in place that will benefit the concerns that people have that are actually laid out in the report. There's a whole page of bullet points in the report that speak to the feedback that staff has heard about this one singular issue. So for those reasons, I'm going to be supportive of option one, so I'm not going to support option two.
Councillor Chica, please. Councillor Duguay.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Your Worship. Through you, I'd just like to as well echo the statements that the previous speaker has emphasized. I cannot support something that excludes the public from the process. The haste of the changes to legislation in Building Homes Faster Act, it's just been faster than the speed of light. And it's very important that community and the citizens of Peterborough understand what has been asked by the provincial government around buildings, homes faster. We're still catching up with that knowledge and understanding, and how that translates to potentially changes to the official plan. We have to bring our community along with the process that we're trying to refine around our need for housing. We have a desperate need for all sorts of housing, and especially affordable housing. I'm glad that we're beginning to address that through our working group, but we can't exclude the public from the process. We can't be head over feet, like I had mentioned last week. Yes, gentle intensification in our strategic growth areas. We have a city that's beautiful. It's of a certain scale. Let's include the public with the process, and let's support the good work that our staff has done in the planning department to recommend option 1, not option 2, hastily. So I cannot support this, and I encourage council to think that through. Thank you very much, Your Worship.
Councillor Duguay, please.
Well, thank you, Your Worship. As the mover of the recommendation in our last meeting, my position remains unchanged. I'd like to speak briefly, if I might, for my colleagues and for those that might be in attendance or listening regarding the subject. There is no exclusion of the public. We had a speaker this evening. We had a delegation that's starting to talk about building height. We've had letters of response. We've had other communication. The public will not be excluded when staff implements a city-initiated official plan amendment, zoning bylaw amendment. There's no exclusion of the public, none whatsoever. Now, I have been active and following the community planning permit system in this community, and I share it's a concern, modest but still a concern. Whilst we are anticipating a report in April, if for some reason, any reason at all, it's delayed, we could find ourselves where the decision to approve the community planning permit system could be delayed because we could be in a position we call lame duck council. And that could delay some of that yet another 6 or months or more. The intent is to allow our city staff to proceed with an amendment of the official plan and zoning bylaw. And it's only to allow and remove, for example, the angular plane and to eliminate building heights in our strategic growth areas. It is not applicable to the entire community. This is only applicable to major streets. Major streets, our bus routes, our infrastructure routes. That's all it applies to. This is a movement and an initiative that is commonplace around Ontario, and I see no reason why we should be contemplating any delay approving what is the inevitable and what is beneficial to our community. And I want to emphasize again, because Mr. Appleby did confirm, Director Appleby, excuse me, did confirm at the previous meeting that there would be public consultation and that the matter would be approved and processed through the provisions of the Planning Act. So on that basis, I would continue to support recommendation 2. Thank you for the opportunity to speak, Your Worship.
Thanks, Councillor Duguay. Any further comments or questions on this? We'll go to a vote. It's been moved by Councillor Hill, second by Councillor Duguay. We'll have a vote. That's carried. Next item of business, notice of motion. Councillor Burke, please.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Leo.
Didn't.
So my notice of motion, I'll read the motion. Whereas during the 2025 budget process, council approved changes to the Peterborough Public Library with the understanding that impacts to staff and programming would be minimal. And whereas recent updates have suggested the restructuring may affect multiple specialized positions and reduce program capacity, therefore be resolved that council directs staff to provide an update to council on the issue. And I'll speak to the matter. You know, it feels to me like there's been a lot projected onto me about this very simple motion in my eyes about the intentions or what it's about or this and that. And I'll tell you where I stand. And it actually hasn't changed where I stand since I've gotten on council, is that I view it my duty as an elected official that when the community responds to me about an issue, that we're a part of, that I owe it to them and to my constituents to give them a chance to come to council chambers and for us to listen to them. And this motion is not about us at council micromanaging our professional staff. This motion is not about us at council getting involved in union negotiations. What this is about is that my constituents have raised to me concerns that they have about decisions that we have made and decisions we made based on a couple paragraphs in our budget book that are having impacts on them. The motion does not lay out any position on whether I'm in favor or against what I'm hearing from the community. All that it's asking for at this point is to allow for staff to prepare a report updating us with information about the decision that we made. And at the same time, it will offer transparency to the people affected by the position. It will give them a platform to hear from staff and to come to speak to us. And I don't buy into this argument that it's either door number 1 or door number 2. Again, that's not how I'm wired. If I'm hearing from people that are important to me, that they have a problem with what's happening in their lives, then I think that it's my duty to give them a chance to address it. And I hope that the rest of council can understand that that is what this is about. You know, when I questioned some of the delegates, we did make this decision come budget time. But what this motion will do is it will give an opportunity for us to sort of hear what's actually happening. Not based on a Reddit thread, not based on a newspaper headline, not based from someone that we don't know. It's just an update on a decision that we've made. And for that reason, I think that it's important for council to support. You know, I don't know if last week the little ask in new business would have had the same impact, resulting in a report to come to council publicly. So the reason that I'm moving ahead with this notice of motion is to just ensure that that process remains intact. We can hear an update at a public meeting and give the public a chance to respond. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Burke. Councillor Crowley's next. Councillor Chico.
A seconder to the motion, Your Worship?
Sorry?
Point of order, just a seconder to the motion.
Right.
I'm just,
I have you on the speakers list. Councillor Crowley, you're next.
I'd like to put the question.
Put the question?
Yes, please.
Yep. It's non-debatable. Deputy Clerk, could you put that up on the screen, then the question now be put? Yes, that was by Councillor Crowley, and it's non-debatable. And as carried that the question be put, we have the notice of motion. If we get it on the screen, please. And it carries. Next, we have no bylaws, other business, other business. Someone like to move the confirmation bylaw? Councillor Duguay, Councillor Baldwin, we'll go to a vote. That is carried. Next item of business is adjournment. Councillor Crowley, Councillor Vasiliadis, we'll go to a vote. That is carried. Thank you, colleagues. Thank you, staff.